The morning began like any other at Tennessee High. Students shuffled through hallways, their backpacks laden with books. Laughter echoed from the cafeteria as friends shared breakfast and gossip. The winter sun cast long shadows across the courtyard, a deceptively peaceful scene. It was a day brimming with the promise of routine, the comfort of the familiar. Inside Mrs. Johnson's English class, the seniors were engrossed in Shakespeare's Julius Caesar, oblivious to the impending horror. Across the hall, Mr. Thompson's history students were preparing for a debate on the Civil War. The clock ticked past 9 a.m., marking the start of another ordinary school day. But fate had other plans. Deep within the labyrinthine corridors, a lone figure moved with a chilling purpose. He carried a secret, a burden of hate and despair that would soon spill over, shattering the tranquility of Tennessee High. In his wake, he would leave a trail of devastation, forever scarring the hearts of a community. The first hint of trouble came as a distant pop, easily mistaken for a textbook slamming shut or a locker door clanging, but this sound carried a different weight, a sharp, metallic edge that sliced through the mundane rhythm of the day. No one could have imagined the nightmare that was about to unfold. The initial reaction was confusion. Some students froze, their minds struggling to process the unfamiliar sound. Others dismissed it as a prank, a cruel joke gone wrong. But the silence that followed was heavy with dread, a palpable shift in the atmosphere. Then came the screams. Word spread like wildfire through the hallways. "There's a shooter!" Panic gripped the student body. Adrenaline surged, triggering a primal instinct for survival. The once familiar corridors transformed into a terrifying labyrinth, every corner a potential hiding place for the unseen assailant.
"We didn't know what to do," Sarah, a junior, later recounted, her voice trembling. "We just started running. Everyone was screaming and crying. It was chaos." The orderly routine of a school day dissolved into a desperate scramble for safety.
Students poured out of classrooms, their faces etched with fear. Some ran for the exits, desperate to escape the confines of the building. Others sought refuge in classrooms and storage closets, barricading doors with whatever they could find, desks, chairs, even their own bodies. The air crackled with tension. Every echo, every creak of the floorboards sent shivers down their spines. Some students called their parents, their voices choked with sobs, desperate to hear a familiar voice amidst the chaos. Others sent frantic text messages, their words tumbling over each other in a desperate plea for help. Outside, the scene was equally chaotic. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder with each passing moment. Parents, alerted by terrified calls and text messages, rushed to the school, their faces pale with worry. They gathered behind police barricades, their hearts pounding in their chests, praying for their children's safety. Time seemed to stand still for those trapped inside the school. Minutes stretched into an eternity as they huddled in darkened classrooms, their breaths shallow, their ears straining for any sign of danger. The silence was broken only by the sound of their own beating hearts and the muffled sobs of their classmates. "We were so scared," whispered Emily, a sophomore who had sought refuge in the library with a group of friends. "We didn't know if the shooter was going to come in or not. We just held each other and prayed." Outside, SWAT teams moved with precision, their faces grim as they secured the perimeter. They knew their mission to neutralize the threat and bring the students to safety. But for those trapped inside, the wait was agonizing, each second an eternity. The hours that followed were a blur of activity. Students were evacuated from the school, their hands held high, their faces etched with trauma. They were reunited with frantic parents, tears of relief and anguish mingling freely. The injured were rushed to hospitals, their moans a stark reminder of the violence that had shattered their young lives.
But amidst the relief, a chilling realization began to sink in. Some of their classmates, their friends, would never walk out of those doors again. The community of Tennessee High was forever changed, marked by an act of senseless violence.
The initial shock soon gave way to grief, raw and unyielding. The names of the victims, young lives cut tragically short, were etched into the hearts of their loved ones. Candlelight vigils were held, the flickering flames a testament to lives lost too soon. The community mourned together, united in their grief and disbelief.
In the wake of the tragedy, the community of Tennessee High rallied together. Support poured in from across the nation and around the world. offering condolences, prayers, and a shared sense of outrage. Counselors were on hand to provide comfort and guidance to those struggling to cope with the trauma.
Funerals were held, each one a heart-wrenching farewell. Stories were shared, tears were shed, and lives were celebrated. The community drew strength from each other, finding solace in their shared grief.
But even as they mourned, questions lingered. Why did this happen? What could have been done to prevent it? The search for answers, the need to make sense of the senseless, was a common thread that bound them together.
Law enforcement officials launched a full-scale investigation, determined to uncover the motives behind the shooting. They scoured the shooter's home, his computer, his social media profiles, searching for any clues that might shed light on his descent into darkness.
The investigation revealed a troubled young man, consumed by anger and isolation. He had a history of mental health issues, but his cries for help had gone unanswered. The warning signs were there, but they had been missed or ignored.
As the investigation progressed, a debate raged across the nation. Some pointed to the easy availability of guns, while others blamed the lack of mental health resources. The tragedy of Tennessee High reignited a long-standing national conversation about gun violence and school safety. The shooting at Tennessee High sent shockwaves across the nation, once again thrusting the issue of gun violence into the national spotlight. Lawmakers debated gun control measures, while activists on both sides of the issue rallied for their cause. The airwaves were filled with passionate pleas for change, but finding common ground seemed as elusive as ever. Some argued for stricter gun laws, citing the need to keep firearms out of the hands of those who would do harm. Others advocated for increased mental health funding, believing that early intervention was key to preventing such tragedies. The debate was complex, multifaceted, and deeply emotional, with no easy answers in sight. The shooting at Tennessee High served as a stark reminder of the vulnerability of our schools, the places where our children are supposed to feel safe. It forced the nation to confront uncomfortable truths about its own failings, its inability to protect its most innocent citizens. As the days turned into weeks, the initial shock began to fade, but the pain remained. The community of Tennessee High was left to pick up the pieces, to find a way to move forward in the shadow of tragedy. The scars of that day would forever be etched in their hearts. But amidst the grief, there was also a determination to honor the memory of those who were lost. Scholarships were established in their names, their legacies living on in the achievements of future generations. The school building itself became a place of remembrance, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. The shooting at Tennessee High was a tragedy, a senseless act of violence that shattered a community, but it also served as a call to action, a reminder that we must do more to protect our children, to address the root causes of violence, and to create a world where such horrors are no longer possible.